okay, today is today. I
Mm.
can only control what I am today.
Yeah.
And where am I today? And I think this is where that part of the world is what you think it is, right? We take a lot of thought.
Today's guest believes the world is what you think it is. And no matter what you've been through, you have the power to heal and live your best life. Donna Thomas is a shamanic holistic healer, NLP practitioner, and a change manager who blends ancient wisdom with modern practices to help women and children overcome past obstacles and step boldly into their future. Inspired by her own life-changing encounter with a shamanic healer, Donna now guides others to release old pain, reclaim their power, and connect mind, body, and soul. Donna, welcome to Positive Vibes with Nicki Dennis.
Thanks for having me.
You're most welcome. So, Donna, let's start with your own journey. Can you take us back to the moment when you first met a shamanic healer? How did that shift your path?
Yeah, for sure. Look, it was probably a long time ago, and when I was in my late teens. And I think, like all of us at that age, you kind of develop, where do you want to go in life? What do you want to have? What's that kind of journey for the future? And I was very lost and confused and sort of disillusioned by what standard everyday life would be like. And I really knew I wanted to change. And just by chance, I just happened to meet a Native American medicine man. His name is Medicine Crow. And he changed my life entirely. And when I say that, it kind of, sometimes it can be a bit of a cliche, but I was in a very dark place when I met him.
Mm-hmm.
And when we go through life, we kind of realize that parents or whatever, just doesn't give you that piece of like, where do you want to be? I was always the black sheep of the family as well, which is,
Mm.
I think a lot of people feel that way and disconnected. And I always knew in life there was more to it. So the shamanic sort of part of it, what he taught me was exactly very simple practices, right? The world is what you think it is. And I know when we
Mm.
think about that statement, we go, well, of course it is, because we think things all the time. But it generally is in everything that we do. It's our story, it's our past story, it's what we bring to the future. It's how
Mm.
we feel about things in life, it's how we feel about ourselves. And so it really, when I first started on this shamanic journey, that's really what I was looking for. I was just
Yeah.
looking for, who am I? What is this life going to bring for me? Because I didn't want what I saw my family have. I didn't fit in
Mm.
with them, and I wanted something more. And it was more of that spiritual connection. So that kind of journey connected me very closely with the understanding of what's around us and the things that we don't
Mm.
see and we don't connect to, because we see human connection and we think that that's all that it is, but it's actually more.
Mm.
It's the animals that are around us, the birds, even bees, ants,
Mm.
all that kind of simple complexity of life that goes on without our even seeing it. And then the feeling of when you're out in nature versus when you're not. And it really does. And I know there's a lot of scientific studies nowadays. Back then there wasn't, but nowadays there are, of our connection. And when we're stressed, to get out in
Mm.
nature and breathe, and that part of it. And that's where it changed my life. It actually just shifted my thinking from the physical, body,
Mm.
four walls, that aspect to, what, there's a lot more out there in life and a lot more help and guidance that we have, and so much more to understand that we're connected, whether we're here, wherever we live, to someone on the other side of the world. We can feel that energy that shifts around the whole of
Yeah.
the globe. And it just taught me those practices. But fundamentally, it taught me about me.
Mm.
It taught me that the things that I was thinking that were weird about myself, where I said before I was the black sheep of the family, I never really fitted in. I grew up in an abused home. My dad abused
Mm.
my mum quite heavily, and I knew I didn't want that. And they came from a different generation, so it helped me understand generationally what you gather from your environment, your upbringing. Um, I mean, most of them grew up in the war. I'm in my 50s, so it's that kind of generation. But
Mm.
I just knew I didn't want that. And I had spirit always around me, like I'd have these very vivid dreams, or I'd hear things, or I just know things. You'd meet people and I'd know something about them that I,
Yeah.
and Western culture, we find that as an abnormal, like, oh, there's something wrong with
Mm,
you if you do that. And so it's all that part that came together for me and started to actually make me realize that, you know what, that's very normal. And it
mm,
allowed me to channel my energy completely different rather than think that I was some weird outsider, unable to fit in. And it's not like I didn't have friends. It's not that part of fitting. It's just knowing, when you're
mm.
around, you don't feel who you are. And I think that's coming a lot in play in even that what I see in society today. People
Yeah.
don't feel they're a part of it. We feel disconnected. And we've got to go back to that connection. So that really
Mm,
started that journey for me, and the understanding of spirit connection, and not just human spirit, angels, whatever we want to call it from that aspect, but animal
mm.
spirit, plant spirit,
Yeah.
earth spirit, sky, all of that.
Mm.
And when we think about things, and I know a lot of people look at the stars and the moon, and that really does impact us quite
Yeah.
heavily in how we move. I mean, you ask anyone in, police, ambulance, and hospitals, that
Yeah.
when it's a full moon, they know, oops, crazy is going to come out.
Mm.
It's a definite true part. We are very affected by the vibration of what's around us, whether we're
Yeah.
miles away or whether we're together. It's still that same
Yeah.
vibration that the earth gives.
Yeah.
So that's the part that it really transpired for me, and changed my life entirely, my
Yeah.
thinking and everything I did.
Yeah, and really connecting to all the elements of the world and the universe. And it's interesting, just picking up on what you say about, some people think it's odd, Western society thinks it's odd that, if we hear something or feel something or we don't believe things. However, we'll believe scientific facts of, the moon affects the tides. So why doesn't that affect us as a human being? So yeah, it's interesting what you touched on there. So I just want to touch on what you've mentioned a little bit earlier and throughout what you said there before you hit your beliefs in shamanic healing. Before you encountered that, what were some of your obstacles and struggles that shaped your story? You mentioned a few about being the black sheep and
Yeah.
feeling out of place with your family, but can you go into a few more obstacles or struggles that shaped your story?
Yeah, definitely. And look, I think a lot of people feel it today, and generationally, as we're growing up,
Mm,
we kind of get that sense of change in ourselves. And so the body changes, all, your hormones kick in. And it's that part that through life, I always had that sort of sense, like in school, I wasn't really great at school. I didn't concentrate in class. Um, I was always looking out the window and daydreaming. And it's funny when you look at that kind of personality trait. And, I was always got told by teachers, you're never paying attention. You could do really well if you did these things. And it's that part that I didn't really want to do really well in this kind of society. I was always connected to something outside. And look, I always had a lot of friends. I never had that issue of fitting in of that part. But when I talked about the family sort of aspect, it was a very violent household that I lived in, and a
mm,
very confused. And I think a lot of kids experience the same, and I experienced it. It's that kind of fear of, what is this? Is this can't all be all life is? And I think as a woman, and this is
mm,
why a lot of my healing is to do with women, is because I understand it. We look at things, and we're put in a different sort of stage. And I felt that different class sort of piece. And look, like I said, I'm in my 50s, so different generation. Very much grew up in a household of, my parents, well, one was English and the other was from Germany. But it was very much don't speak. You're a child, don't talk, don't do anything
mm,
until I ask you things. And it just became very confusing for me, and I became very disengaged and lost in what society is. And I think even how women are portrayed in society, right? We have to be pretty, we have to
mm,
have children, we have to cook, we have to clean, all that tradition. And that still comes through in our media today, right? Like for our young girls,
mhm.
with beauty products and weight loss. We
Yeah.
never accept us for who we are, and I'm
Mm,
not the perfect body. I'm happy for who I am. I've had two children, so I'm not going to be the person I was in my 20s. And I saw that through with a lot of women that I grew up with, and especially my mum,
mm,
who had kind of the life beaten out of her a little bit, and became a bit of a doormat sort of piece of like, well, you just tell me what to do, I'll tell you, and I'll move.
yeah.
Um, and being a female, I'm not that person. I was never that child either. So that's why I think I was always the
Mm,
black sheep, because I was never the child who sat there and went, well, okay, I'll take my place that you're telling me to put in. I was always like, hang on, I don't want to sit in that place. I don't want to be the quiet female. I don't want
mm,
a career for a man. I want a career for me. I want to know what life is for me. And that was a very big struggle in society. And I think a lot of young girls still feel it today. Got
mm.
to have a boyfriend or a girlfriend, whatever. You got to be married. You got to do comply. And that lack of compliance to me is very strong and very
Yeah.
social justice. So I think that's where I came through. But as I got to my teens and I couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel, actually turned a very dark corner for me. And
Hmm.
I couldn't see where this was going to go. I felt very strongly about the things that I believed in, and justice, and why is this fair,
Mm.
and why don't women, why don't we stand up and do something about it?
Yeah.
Um, but then I just knew that I was a person. I became a person through that. I was a compulsive liar
Mm.
to my friends, because I was so conflicted with what life do I tell. I can't tell,
Yeah.
you don't talk about what goes on in your home. So I always played this beautiful part and became this person that I just didn't like. I also, because of the violence in my household, I became a person who would find things about people. And when you did something against me, I would remember that piece that you tried to hide and you told me in confidence, and I would slap that in your face. So I became a very
Mm.
ugly person. And I knew I didn't want to be that person, but I just didn't know who I was.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm.
my dad actually passed away. So I lost that negativity of life of, he used to always fight me every day. I never, he grew up, he was in Hitler's youth and went through a
Mm.
very traumatic life as well with women, and took it
Yeah.
out on us as women. But because I was a combative female, he fought with me every day.
Mm.
And I think that's the part, when we feel that I'm great at fighting. Like, trust me, even probably today, I'm sure that would flare back up if I was in that situation. But I wanted something different. He passed away. I didn't have that fight every day. So I
Yeah.
wanted, what do I do with that? Like, because well, I knew I was an ugly person. I knew those traits I
Mm.
was just talking about were not nice. And
Yeah.
I didn't want that for my future.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be that person. I never wanted to be that person, but I knew that's not where I wanted to go. So that's why I
Mm.
went and look for something new.
Yeah.
And what does
Yeah.
this life mean? And I was just lucky enough to go with the shamanic sort of approach,
Yeah.
which then changed that whole thinking, and really to that point of, I know I go back to it, but the world is what you think it is.
Yeah.
I hated my life there. I actually wanted to end my life. I did not have the courage to do so. Which is why I went, well, if I can't even do that, what am I going to do? I
Yeah.
can't keep running and whatever. So,
Yeah.
that piece, and I really resonated with it. And shamanic practices aren't always the kind of like the fluffy aspect of it, right? I think people look to someone else to help them.
Yeah.
Like, and I mean to take on that pain, to take that pain away, or to
Mm.
change it. But fundamentally, you have to do it yourself. And it's a tough road. Like, I'm one of them, right? Like, I went through a lot of counseling afterwards. I did a lot of, so along with the shamanic sort of piece, and I was like, I need to get this anger out. I need to learn
Mm.
how to redirect it. And it was a good year after I started this journey of
Mm.
really stopping the world around me and
Yeah.
realizing that I control what I do, I control what I say, I can control who the person that I am, and then rediscovering, who is it? Who do
Yeah.
you want to be, Donna? No, who is
Mm.
Donna? What does she want to be? And at that point, it was just, I just want to be a nice person.
Yeah.
I just want to be nice. I just want to show love and understanding. I want to let go of that negativity. And that's
Yeah.
where I started. And then it just grew from that moment
Yeah.
of, that part. But I think that's the key, that the biggest key is that it's hard work. It's very
Yeah.
hard work to change.
Yeah.
And you have to really want it. And you have to remember, you have to forgive yourself at times, because there's times, I mean,
Mm.
I'm 50 odd now. I'm sure my children will tell you. There's many times I might go back and they'll be like, wow, you shouldn't have done that piece. And I'll think, oh, hang on. Yeah, you're better than that. Like, do this
Yeah.
different. And allow ourselves to know that we're human. We're going to make mistakes. We're not going to be perfect. I will say it today, there's no such
Yeah.
thing as being perfect. I'm doing the best I can with what I've got.
Yeah.
My backstory is my backstory, and I'm using all of that to do the best I can for the future and
Yeah.
help people understand that it's part of you, but
Mm.
it's not you. Like that
Yeah.
person that I was is still, I can still recount her very closely, but I learnt from her and I moved forward. And,
Mm.
and I continually have that on my shoulder to say, and it gives me the understanding and empathy for people I know, who go through that. Like some of my children's friends, one of them was a compulsive liar. And I said to my daughter, you think of it from what the output is of what you're seeing, but you don't know what's going on behind those scenes.
Mm.
You don't know what it is that they're trying to portray a different life for it. And it's not as simple as they're choosing to lie just for the sake of lying. They're hiding something, and that's who they are.
Mm.
And we
Yeah.
need to have an empathy and understanding is that they're just a person too,
Yeah.
trying to deal with that. And the only outward way they know how to is by putting this facade in front. And just know that's who they want to portray themselves to be. Accept that
Yeah.
and don't judge them for it, because I think
Mm.
that's the part that we need to understand from each other. We all come from different backgrounds, we all come
Mm.
from different experiences, but it doesn't make mine better or worse. It just, we need to understand it's that outward show is hiding most of the time an inward
Yeah.
piece that they're struggling with. And
Yeah.
until we sit and move forward and find a channel, for me it was shamanic, and that really the strong practice of the world is what you like. Take ownership of your world. Don't try and
Mm.
get someone else to change it for you. So the medicine man that I went to, so Medicine Crow, was very much, I actually ended up with pneumonia because I allowed outward feelings and thoughts to affect me personally. And I went to him.
Mm.
He opened the door, gave me the biggest hug. So, it's all about love and
Yeah.
understanding. And he went, "What are you doing this to yourself for?"
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you're so right in that aspect. Again, society can be very hard to grow up in, and it's also when you look at what you touched on what your dad went through, society conditions a lot of us to think different ways and not really touch our authentic side. And it's so great that you were able to find your authenticity so early in your life, even though it was, in your 20s, but that's quite early because some people are still trying to find that authenticity in their lives. And I must say, I did giggle in my head when you talked about school because we all have those stories about school, and mine was Nikki would do better if she stopped talking. So, and here I am today. So anyway, I'm still continuing to talk. So just on your turning point, when did you realize that healing wasn't just possible for you, but something you could guide others through too?
Yeah, great question. And it was only until I healed myself.
Mm.
And I think that's the part, and I see this a lot with a lot of people who take up forms of healing practice, whatever part, right? We must heal ourselves first. You can't come from a place. I don't want to know. Let me rephrase that, because you can come from a place where you're still a bit broken. Because I think we always are. We always have that piece of doing something better. But I think we need to do the work to ourselves first. We really need to understand who
Mm.
we are. And then when that came about, it was just it kind of just landed for me, because you give that energy out, right, which is where it shifts your energy. When you find people are going through a very troubled time, and where I was, your energy is very closed off. When people meet you, they kind of go, "Oh, you okay?" You kind of hear, you've got to listen to what's being said around you. Like, "Are you okay? Is everything all right?" And I'll be like, "Yeah, I'm fine, don't worry about that stuff. Like, I'm hiding that stuff in the background. I'm all good." And I think that we need to listen to what's being said, because spirit
Mm.
puts that in our way and in our path, right? Conversations, topics, whatever is all in our way, to think, hang on a minute, what does it mean for me? And I think when you've gone through all of that and you now go, hey, I know. When I got to the point where I went, I know who Donna is now. And Donna is not the
Mm.
black sheep, right?
Yeah.
Donna, yes, thinks entirely differently, and she does things differently. And I've got a big justice value in my life, and I've learned to turn that down a little bit and understand how to redirect that energy. But I think when you get to that point, when I got to there, that's when I realized how I could help other people. And it's funny, other people
Mm.
kept coming to me, in work. I do a job where it's change management. Now, what change management is I go into organizations and help them change their organization, whether it's organizationally, whether it's an IT system or whatever. And I help people adapt to, hey, this is what you used to do, and this is the new way. And that kind of lended itself quite very well and helped me on this journey as well, because it blended that part of helping people. But then I'd had conversations with people that I'd meet that would be more on a personal nature,
Yeah.
and I'd be like, look, these are the things that would just come to me, actually. I'm very open with spirit, and things would just come through me, and that person would go, you know what, they really changed my life. And I'm thinking, what, where was that? So I think it came as a natural progression.
Yeah.
And then because of my upbringing, and I see it a lot today, and we hear a lot about domestic violence and not even that part of it. I think it's children. I've got a young daughter who's 19 now. I have a son who's 15. And I think my value in life was to teach them, learn these lessons early,
Yeah.
because you don't want to be at my age at 50 and still
Mm.
combating with stuff from your past. Learn it now, have empathy, understanding, and love for other people, but understand how things are all connected. And if you do it now, wow, what a generation we
Mm.
will have,
Yeah.
And I see that with our younger children, like our adolescents going through, we want to label things a lot. We call it, oh, kids are going with ADHD, or they've got, anxiety. We want
Mm.
to label, we want to stop them. And you and I were just talking before in school. I guarantee if we talked about school for us, they'll have the same thing, but we label it. We
Yeah.
label it now. We're back then, everyone, well, they kind of labeled it then, but it was just kind of, yeah, she's just not never going to be academic. Just be happy if she just does something else, right? Like you don't talk, stop talking. And now you're like, well, look at my career now. But I think that's the
Mm.
part that if children just understand themselves and we teach them to understand themselves, we won't have so much of these cases of anxiety and fear for the future, because that's all anxiety is, right? I'm terrified for the future. If you
Mm.
looked at where I started my journey, that was the same.
Yeah.
I'm sure if I was in today, it would be anxiety. And I think we've got to stop going for medication and doctors. And I don't mean that in a way of, there's a very hand in hand, there's a great medicine that helps people, but stop going to others for an answer for yourself. Start
Mm.
discovering who you are and what resonates with you. Shamanic obviously was a thing for me. That's not for everybody.
Yeah.
It could be counseling can resonate. It doesn't matter what that is, but
Mm.
go there to be able to find that little niche that works for you and move
Mm.
forward in that and understand who you are. And we don't talk about it enough, right? Like hormones is a massive piece for young people, right? It's
Yeah.
massive for them. They're young and they don't know how to control it. And you see it in young boys where they run around and they have so much energy. And my fear today is we label that as ADHD.
Mm.
And we say, well, we've got to give you medication to turn that down. And what does that do for them in the future? And I'm not saying that there isn't. And I think I actually saw a post actually on Facebook about a young boy who has ADHD and autism. And he talked about his life and that he's the same as everybody else. He just does things differently. And that's how we
Mm.
must start to think about it. It's not a disease, it's not a
Yeah.
change. It's just they're not like you or me or whatever. And we need to be proud of that part and understand that people are different.
Yeah.
And we need to help them channel that energy so they understand who they are. And who knows what will happen in the future for them.
Yeah.
And that's just the part that I see a lot in my practice and helping people with.
Mm, yeah, it'd be interesting. Again, in every generation, there's always different labeling, as you say there, or different diagnoses and treatments for things. And ADHD is a big thing, and the medications, the research that have been going on for now, we're going to see what comes from that. So I think it's going to be telling that is
Yeah,
it the right thing to do, or should we just be tapping into their gifts and working with them in a different
yeah.
way?
Or
Um,
do both, right? It's a
yeah.
both journey. It's not a one or all.
No.
It's both. Yeah,
Yeah. So you often say you have the power to overcome anything.
yeah.
What are some of the first steps to releasing past pain?
Acknowledge it.
Mm.
And it takes you sometimes in a uncomfortable, sad, and we might flick a little bit to being, well, again, we might label it as depression, but you have to acknowledge where you were. You have to
Mm.
acknowledge those feelings, because if you don't, all you're doing is bottling that up, right? And as we know, anything that bottles up eventually will come out in one way or another. And I think that's part where you've just got to acknowledge where you are And for right or for wrong, it doesn't matter. There is no right and wrong, right? It's how I think, it's how I feel. If I go back to my past, when I really was like, I'm going to end it. I'm going to get in the car and I'm going to run off a cliff. And I sat there on the side of the road and I thought, yeah, you know what? I'm too scared to do that. I can't do that. I
Mm.
don't have the strength to do it. And I use it in a different language, right? It is strength to do it. If you're going to end your life here, you have to be strong enough to do that. It's not I know people who've had people suicide. I've had friends who are suicide and we look at it and we go, oh, they were weak. They didn't do things. You know what? They're really not. But they just didn't see the light of the other side. And I think that's the moment you've just got to stop and go, okay, today is today. I
Mm.
can only control what I am today.
Yeah.
And where am I today? And I think this is where that part of the world is what you think it is, right? We take a lot of thought, and part of it has become our nature that we
Mm.
allow ourselves to be governed and ruled by our thoughts in a negative. And we call it, right? We say it's human nature to think of the negative before the positive. We need to shift that
Yeah.
dialogue, right? But we think of the negative and we think, oh my gosh, I looked at that person wrong or I said that wrong. If I look at my life, I was a compulsive liar. I can stand here and own that space now.
Mm.
Um, but if I look back at it and I go, oh my gosh, I said that and that was wrong and I shouldn't have done that. And then my thoughts become overwhelming,
Yeah.
right? You can't change what you did yesterday, right? And you
Mm.
definitely can't change it for tomorrow. The only aspect you have is right now. The
Yeah.
other two actually do not exist.
Mm.
And that's the part I think you just got to stop and think, where am I right now? How am I feeling now? If I'm feeling crappy, then feel crappy, but why am I feeling that way? And what can I do
Mm.
to make myself, no one else? And this is the thing, right? We're too busy wanting to be liked by others. We're too busy being influenced by that outside chatter. Just stop the chatter for a minute and go, what is it that I can control? I can't control another person. I can't control what they say, think, do, or anything. The only person I can control is myself. So let's go back to
Mm.
that. What is it that I'm feeling? Why am I feeling it? And really break it down and go,
Mm.
is it that bad? Is it what can be the worst? And there are people that are living their lives in a worse situation, in
Mm.
war, in fear, in abuse backgrounds. Like to me, I kind of went, well, I'm not as bad as that.
Mm.
Okay, so that's just take one. And if you just take one aspect of that change of thought, it's not as bad as
Yeah.
whatever that statement.
Mm.
And just move and just go, okay, I'm just going to move today. What are the good things that I'm going to do? You know?
Mm.
And I learned very early on to do, and look, it took time. It took a lot of time. One is breathing.
Yeah.
Just focus on your breathing. You take it back to the simplicity. And it is simple. It's the simple things in life that humans, we seem to struggle the most with
Mm.
because we want someone else, some whiz bang fanfare of change, but it actually isn't. It's just a moment.
Mm.
Breathe.
Yeah.
Just focus on my breathing. Right. Let that out. Right. Okay. All right. Didn't go the way I wanted it to, or I didn't say the right things. There are no right things. I learned that long ago. But you know what I mean? Just take yourself a moment,
Mm.
regroup with who you are, and look at when you're. This is the thing I always say to a lot of people: when you're looking in the mirror, it's your reflection that you
Mm.
see. It's nobody else's.
Yeah.
So just look at yourself for a minute and go, you know what? I'm not so bad,
Mm.
and I can change that. What I don't like, I can change it.
Yeah.
It might be hard, but you can do it. And I think just be there, understand it, bottle it up. And writing, a lot of people do this a lot, right? Write what you don't like or what you're feeling in that moment. And
Mm.
crazy it may sound, full moon, I burn that.
Mm.
Go, right? And then I do look to the spirits and I say to them a lot, help me make the right decision here.
Mm.
Help me. And whether it's spirit, God, whatever you want to call it, it doesn't matter. You don't have to, you can anchor it to whatever name you want, right?
Yeah.
Um, I just stand there and say, okay, I don't know what to do here anymore. Tell me,
Yeah.
show me what I need to do. And
Mm.
it's very ironic because people go, well, hey, but isn't that the same thought? What you're saying is don't allow other people to, but this is different, right? This is your energy
Mm.
and your chosen path. When you do that moment of like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And you find, like I said to you in work, where the job that I thought I was doing was tactical. Here's the things I take. Then people came to me personally, and then I got my
Yeah.
healing practice. things open up and come, and you don't realize until
Mm,
afterwards your reflection is, oh, you might meet someone and they then change your life on that way of thinking. I think we've just got to be more open and understanding.
yeah. So, Donna, forgiveness is one of your core teachings. Why is forgiveness so powerful in the healing journey, and what does it really mean to forgive and move forward?
Yeah. Forgiveness is in multitude of ways, right? Forgive
Mm,
yourself. Forgive yourself is important. Forgive yourself for what you might have said. Forgive yourself for those parts. And you hear it, even when you say the word, your body goes,
mm,
forgive, right?
yeah,
And that's the part that it really helps with that journey. You have to forgive others because remember, they all come when we talk about it as well, right? Like I talk about my family, they came from a very different background for what I've experienced. I've thank goodness I'm here in Australia. There is no war that we've ever had like that. I'm eternally grateful for that. But they've come from a different thing. And we have to look at our generation.
yeah,
Generationally, we have to understand what our parents, what they've received, because that's the love they gave to us or didn't give to us, depending on what they got. We need to break that cycle. And forgiveness is also forgiveness backwards. I
yeah,
forgive you. I forgive my dad for being so dictative, trying to squash the person where I was. I forgive him not because my ego's there and, hey, I forgive you. I forgive him because he was doing the best he had with what he got.
yeah,
And I forgive that. But what I do shift it with is I forgive it, but I'm the person I am today because of it.
mm,
So I'm grateful.
yeah,
And I think that's the part of forgiveness, but forgive yourself.
mm-hmm,
Forgive yourself for doing certain things. It doesn't matter. There is, like I said, in life, there is no right or wrong. It's the moment that happened, the outcome that happened at that moment, or your upbringing, or outside influences that do it. Forgive that part of that journey, and you'll find forgive,
mm,
forgive and move forward. And love comes through when you forgive. We see it a lot here in Australia. There was a family that lost half of their children through a drunk driver
oh,
who
yeah,
killed them, right? What was the biggest key that that family did? They forgave him
mm,
because they didn't want to carry that burden. When you forgive, you don't carry that hatred or burden or anger or anything. You forgive. I forgive. I let it go.
mm,
It doesn't mean you forget. There's a difference, right? Forgive, forget means I forgive you. So I want to channel my energy to something better.
mm,
I think that's the part people need to just be in that moment and forgive yourself and others.
yeah. So you mentioned the family that is well known in Australia about losing their children and forgiving the person that actually did that to their family and actually are helping that person as well. And they would say he's is helping them as well.
Yeah.
Can you share a story, either personally or from your work, that shows what happens when someone finally lets go of what they've been holding, what's been holding them back?
Yeah. And I think in that moment, I don't know how to really put it into words, right? Because it's a feeling more than anything. It's that
Mm,
relief and release.
mm,
Because when you don't forgive, you hold on to that story. That becomes you.
mm,
If I look at my past, if I would have held on to the person I was in my teens, who I knew was not a nice person, who, if I didn't forgive myself for that, how would I release it and then get that grateful moment? And like, even with my dad, um, he had great moments. Unfortunately, in this life, we never got to share those great moments. But if I didn't forgive him for that part, how do I use this energy to help other people and have empathy and understanding for those moving forward?
mm,
And it's that your body vibrates differently. And I think that the moment when you've held on to something for such a long time, it does come out in a form of a cold.
mm,
It does come out in an illness.
yes.
And this is the part that I want to be clear on, right? What we think and what we feel and what we do, all that part that we held on to does come out if you never let it go
Mm,
internally in our body in some form or another.
yes, it manifests in that way.
It
Mm,
100% does. Louise Hay
Mm, yeah.
bless her soul. She was a great person. She influenced my life heavily. My dad, to give you a bit of a story of it, my dad had cancer. He had prostate cancer. That ended up taking his life. It went through all of his bone marrow.
Mm,
He was a very powerful man. That's a different story. With he walked even though he was clinically paralyzed from the chest down. I learned from that moment. Louise Hay came into my life at that point, and what you think is how it comes out in your body, for right or for wrong, or whether you believe it or not. Prostate cancer is comes out from lack of love and lack of understanding. If you read her book, you'll see it quite heavily.
mm,
He had that, and he couldn't show love or understanding to himself or anyone else.
yeah.
It took his life in the end, but if you don't let it go, this is what happens. And we have to be
Mm,
just clear on that. And we talk a lot of things in life about being hereditary and whatever. That's the story you're telling yourself.
mm,
The story you're telling yourself is, I'm going to get that because it happened. And I will lay money on it. Let's go a bit lighter, right? Every season is flu season, right? If they put the
mm,
ads out, go get your flu injection or whatever, whether you believe that or not, is not the story I'm going with here. It's, I have clients who will come to me, and every time, just before those ads, when those ads start coming out, you will notice so many people will catch the flu.
mm,
Oh, I've got a cold, I've got this. Or if you're on a train, I've been on the train and someone's sneezing and you hear people go, oh, I'm going to catch that now. You are,
mm. Be
because
careful
you
what you
just
wish
told
for.
yourself. Yeah, you just, and this is where the mind is so powerful, and we don't understand it. I know science is kind of catching up with it a bit now to understand it, but it's so powerful. And that's why what you think is determines what it is. And in every part. So the forgiveness piece is very important,
Mm,
because it lets go of that part of us, and it will come out. You might find when you forgive, you fall into a heap on the floor. I've had clients who, once they kind of get to that moment, they are just crushed and go back to that moment. You go
mm,
back to that moment of fear and anxiety, right? Because you've let it go. You're back there now, but you look at it differently. You look at
mm.
it more in understanding and love.
Yeah.
So that their new journey doesn't become that fearful, hang on to it, don't portray, whatever. It becomes a different part, and you become
Yeah.
lighter. You've just got to be in that moment, express it, and move
Yeah.
forward.
So just further on that, once the past is released, how can someone begin to build a future that feels aligned and empowering?
Yeah. It's, and I think each day is different. I think
Mm,
let's not try and be, like I said, I'm 53. My life journey has been for 53 years, and it
mm,
will continue to the day I die. And that's something that I'm very strong on, right? We never stop learning, we never stop changing. I think once you kind of get to that moment, you'll feel your energy different. Let
yeah.
whatever comes to you, positive light, let whatever comes, explore it.
Mm,
And some people, you find, like we find it, we kind of get that midlife crisis. And we kind of go, oh, I've got all this part. And then as women, we kind of go, hey, you know what? I'm not listening to that chatter anymore. I'm going to stop that piece. And then we go, oh, I feel empowered.
mm,
And then we look around us and we go, I don't really know what I want. I don't want this stuff that's around me now. I want to change. I want to do something different. And that's where it comes out when you don't bring that with you. If you don't start it every day, it'll come to a catalyst in the moment, and then you'll throw everything away. And then you'll find some of the things you might have thrown away, you shouldn't have thrown away
mm,
because you just wanted to be different. But just move with it, explore life, understand that everything is connected,
mm.
and then look at things differently, but try and channel it into something that resonates with you. Whether it's healing, the more healers we have in the world, it's not a gift that I wasn't born with. Like, you can hear my journey. I was not born with this gift. We all have the exact same
Yeah.
gift. You have to acknowledge whatever your gift is. And whether it's there for people in your job, whether it's there for what you do, it doesn't have to be this golden chalice of like, oh, look at them, they're up there and they're a healer and whatever. You do everything you do for your children, for yourself. That's healing. And we need to just move forward with whatever that
Mm,
comes out with for you. You don't have to be on some stool and be someone and go, oh, I want to be them. If you want to be them, then do it.
mm,
Find that journey and be there. But you don't have to be. We don't have to be a leader or anything. Silence, and I've always learned in change should be silent.
mm,
It's internal and it's silent. No one should really know, right? Because it's you, it's your personal part of it. And just be a great person and a loving person, and show respect and understanding and empathy to others. And if that's all you do in life and every day, well, wow, you're better than even any healer can be, right? Because you're owning your value and you're changing each time you meet someone. You know, that old story of that starfish thing on the beach, right? Where they're like, why are you throwing them all back? You know, and that one person throws one back and goes, well, it made a difference to that one. That's all you
Mm.
got to think about. Don't think about this empire. You made a difference to you. You will make a difference to that one person or next
Yeah.
person. And before you know it, your tribe is your tribe.
Yeah. Just acts of kindness. That's
It
all it
is.
takes.
It really is.
Acts of
Yeah.
kindness.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Donna, you work with both individuals and businesses. How does shamanic healing apply not only to personal healing, but also transforming groups and organizations?
Yeah. Wow. I've never been asked that one. That's a great one. You
Mm.
know, I think what it is understanding that people are people.
Yeah.
You know, when I go into businesses and they've got something that they want to change or do differently, we just got to understand that there's a person at the end of that. And
Mm.
that person may be having a great day. They might be having a bad day. You don't know what goes on personally, right? We have no idea. So when I go into organizations, it's to get leaders to understand that your people are people. And you might think that that person comes in, they always come in with a bad mood, or they never really want to do this change. They never adapt. It's
Mm.
actually got nothing to do with the output and everything to do with what's going on with them. And just
Mm.
let that person breathe, let that person take that moment. There's multitude of ways of how businesses can help their people shift and grow. And you know what? Sometimes that help is they're not the person for the job,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
So it's not always what we think is going to be a great outcome or that person, but sometimes the business needs to evolve. Can
Mm.
those people adapt to that? And if they can't, you've got to let them go so they can find their own journey in life and go where they need to. Because you can't control another person, right? They can only control themselves. You can give them every opportunity and take them on the journey, but it just allows our leaders to go, it's okay. Because I know a lot of leaders take it personally and they go, oh, but Mary down there, she's not going to like it. She doesn't adapt, and I don't know how to deal with it, right? She's a person.
Mm.
You're a person and she's a person. We are people at the end of the day, whether you're the CEO or whether you're a janitor or whether you're a cleaner or whether you're the person at the front foot, you're a person. And we have to have that undercurrent of we are all people. And
Mm.
we just got to talk to each other without
Mm.
that air of role. I have a
Yeah.
title. What does it mean? Nothing. I'm
Yeah.
a person. I have personal problems. And I think that's the part where I've helped businesses with this aspect is to understand we're all people.
Yeah. So what you're talking about there is connection. So what role does connection in mind, body, and soul play in becoming your best version of ourselves?
Yeah. So exactly to all the things we've been talking about, everything is connected. This is the biggest piece. Our mind is the biggest piece that controls us.
Mm.
It controls how we feel, it controls what we think, and it controls what we do. But who controls that? We do.
Yeah.
We do. And we need to start looking at those things because it's all connected. It's connected with, we talked about how illness can come out. Um,
Mm.
we talked about how you miss things, right? Like if I think about the times when I was thinking negative about everything, I miss so much. I miss so much that was going on around me because I was so blocked to it
Mm.
that there were so many doors, and I was just like, well, where's the door that I want? What? And I think we've got to stop labeling things,
Mm.
just go in the moment. Everything is connected. Everything is. And I think when you find, and I do it a lot with the news, right? When you hear a lot of things about the news and shifting, and you can see a pattern that starts to happen. There's like the war that goes on, we get disgruntled, disillusioned. And when you get that kind of pattern,
Mm.
you start to see people around you get that same disillusionment,
Mm.
right? It does affect us. We have to acknowledge that words of energy, environment has energy, moon cycles definitely play a part of it. Heat,
Mm.
when you have like in here in Australia, when we have a 40-degree heat, you can guarantee people aren't happy, right? We're hot, we're sweaty.
Mm.
That's the energy that the world's giving us, right?
Yeah.
Wind is another thing. When it really blows and you think, oh, I hate the wind, I hate this. Got to be careful with the words and the language that we use because it all
Mm.
carries power, right?
Strong. It's
Wind,
strong.
I always go out in the wind and I'm like, oh, release anything I've been hanging on to and take it, fly, let it fly in the wind. We've just got to shift that thinking, right? We've got to
Mm.
stop boxing things and know that everything is connected. how we feel. And I have a lot of clients, I see it all the time. I was one as well. I'm sure Madison Crow will tell you. When I came to that healing journey, my skin was broken out. I was very, hunched over in my stance and whatever. But when
Mm.
I found myself, my posture was different. My skin was glowing. People were like, wow, you're looking really good. Why? No reason. And when
Yeah.
women are pregnant, right? We have it a lot with women who are pregnant. Everyone's like, look at that baby glow. Do you know why we
Mm.
have that baby glow? Because we're so proud of what's growing inside of us,
Yeah.
right? It's that change of life, of change of going, oh, I'm growing a little human. And I know when I was pregnant, this was what a part I wanted to do. I wanted to experience that. That's why we glow. And that glow can happen in every part of your life. When you release the
Mm.
past and release the negativity, the glow comes in.
Yeah. I was having a giggle to myself when you were saying I go out in the wind and release myself. What I've been doing lately, instead of putting the aircon on the car, it's all the windows down, sunroof on, and letting the
Yeah.
wind take
Yep. That's
take
it.
everything away on my way home from work. So, how has your healing journey, I should say, allowed you to live more joy and peace?
I think it's the understanding and empathy, right? And the ownership of my life. I take ownership for what I do. I take ownership for what comes out here. I take ownership for what goes in here too, right? Because we hear things that we think people say, but they actually didn't say it. It's my interpretation of it,
Yeah,
right?
perception. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And it is. And I carried a lot of that. And we all do. We all carry it. And then when we get that understanding, so I think that's the part that just really shifts and changes is I take ownership of what I do.
Yeah.
And I say to my children all the time, I'm doing the best I can with what I've got. But, and I always say to them, you know what, there might be things that mum does that you go, oh, mum, that was a bit off, whatever. I
Mm.
want you to come to me and tell me because I can't change it if I don't know how it felt for you.
Yeah.
And then I take a moment to reflect on it and go, you know what, that was a bit harsh or whatever. I'm an Aquarius, right? We're a bullet and china shop. We just run.
Mm.
I acknowledge that, but I also acknowledge it to the people who are close to me and say, hey, did I say that? What did I say? How did that come for you? And I'm
Mm.
very conscious of what it looks like for other people. So I think that's the part that it allows you to do. You see things differently than you ever have before.
Yeah.
You live in the now.
Mm.
I look at the past as a learning and I'm grateful for the past. I look to the future for hope and whatever, but I let the future play its own way out.
Yeah.
Today is only thing I can control is today and
Yeah.
who I am now. And I think that's the part that the healing has done for me. And if I
Mm.
can help someone else change, I don't even care. It doesn't have to be everything, just one change of thinking, one part. I'm not here to have people believe in what I believe in. But if I
Mm.
made your day better for a day, I'm happy with that. If
Yeah.
that day became a week, fabulous. If it became a month and a year, even better. But if I can just change your way of thinking for one moment,
Yeah.
my job is done, right?
Mm. So, just on that, if someone listening today feels stuck right now, what's one simple thing they can do today to begin moving forward?
Don't beat yourself up that you're stuck,
Mm.
right? Because we do. We think, oh, I didn't get the promotion, or I don't know where I want. I mean, if I think about the younger me, right? I didn't know who I wanted to be.
Mm.
Just know I don't know who I want to be. See the difference when you say it, right? Even the way I said it to you then, like I don't know who I want to be is a fight. But if I go, I don't know who I want to be.
Yeah.
Who do I want to be? What do I want to do? Where do I want to go? It's a different tone and a different output, right? Just take
Mm.
this one moment and don't have all the answers
Yeah.
because the answers aren't your answers. They're just your thought pattern of what you think you want. And someone said to me a long time ago, what you think you want is never what you get, but what you get is what you want.
Mm.
That saying has stayed with me since I was about 16.
Yeah.
And I think if you just hold yourself to that statement and go, I don't know what I want, and that's
Mm.
okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. I don't have to have all the answers today.
Yeah. Yeah. Wise advice. Wise advice, Donna. So, where can listeners connect with you and learn more about your work at Ideal Holistic Health and even work with you directly?
Yeah, look, I'm on Facebook. If you look up Ideal Holistic Health or even Donna Thomas, I don't care if you connect with me personally or through the business. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. So happy to reach out. I have a website as well. It's idealholistichealth.com.au. If you go there, you have all my details. Just reach out any way you want. You know, if it's just even a few words of help and support. I'm
Mm.
not always here to. If you want to book an appointment to change, sure. But if you just want some bit of banter and chat, I'm always open to private messages.
Fantastic. Thanks, Donna. And if you could go back and whisper something to your younger self, the one still searching for healing, what would you tell her?
You're a good person.
Mm.
You're a good person, and you'll soon see. You'll soon see what the gifts that life will give you.
Well, Donna Thomas's story reminds us that healing isn't about erasing the past. It's about transforming it into wisdom, strength, and light. Through forgiveness, connection, and courage, she helps others step into the future that not only is possible, but is powerful. You can learn more about Donna's work at Ideal Holistic Health and begin your own journey of releasing the past and empowering your future. This is Positive Vibes with Nicki Dennis. Until next time, may you choose forgiveness, choose growth, and always choose joy. Sending you all love and positive vibes. Bye for now, and thank you, Donna.
Thank you.